Hey guys, it's Saga, and in this video, I'm going to tell you everything about this OnePlus 11 that you should know before making the purchase. Now since OnePlus has dropped the Pro from its name, many people are considering this OnePlus 11 as the OnePlus 10T's successor. And if you look at it like that, then this one feels like a big upgrade all around. But consider this, OnePlus said that they wanted to consolidate their lineup and focus on making just one best phone. So they added all the top of the line specs to this OnePlus 11, making it their flagship product, which in fact makes it a OnePlus 10 Pro successor. And once we look at it like that, does this OnePlus 11 still feel like a worthy upgrade? Let's find out. Let us begin with the price. OnePlus priced this phone very strategically, and at a starting price of 57,000 rupees for the base 8GB RAM and 128GB storage variant, it sits right between the OnePlus 10T and 10 Pro. There is another variant with double the RAM and storage, and that one comes in at 61,999 rupees. I wish there was a middle variant as well, either with 8 or 12GB of RAM and 256GB of internal storage. Since OnePlus phones never come with a microSD card for expanding the storage later on, you are stuck with the built-in storage which you buy at the beginning. I actually came across a few people at the store when I was buying this phone who wanted to get more storage, but they didn't really need the 16GB RAM that the top model offered. I think those people would have really appreciated a 256GB storage variant coupled with a little less RAM priced between both these variants. They ended up going with the base variant instead of spending the extra for 16GB RAM one. I feel like OnePlus should have thought about this little thing. I also think that OnePlus missed the mark with their pricing a bit. I feel like if it's a part of their number series, then they should have priced it close to 50,000 rupees mark. Or at least under 55,000 rupees, but they didn't. And on top of that, this time around they didn't even have very good launch offers, which is very unlike OnePlus. I feel like someone at OnePlus should have thought about this as well. Next are the color options. It comes in two colors, Eternal Green and Titan Black. I feel like the green one looks very dull and desaturated, and it also had a glossy glass back which showed a lot of fingerprints. This black one has a matte finish on its back which looks much more premium and shows no fingerprints at all. The front glass gets Gorilla Glass Victus protection, and this back glass is Gorilla Glass 5. There is a metal frame running all around the device, and it flows over to the back on the top right and becomes a part of this new circular camera module. Like they did with the 9 Pro and 10 Pro, OnePlus again partnered with Hasselblad to tune its cameras. And if you look here, we again have the famous OnePlus alert slider, which brings me back to my point that this is in fact a successor to their Pro lineup. You might have noticed that OnePlus never had the Hasselblad branding on their non-Pro lineup, and they also took away the alert slider from a couple of their numbered series phones in the past. Hopefully this is enough to convince you that this phone is not a successor to the OnePlus 10T, and we should actually compare it more with the OnePlus 10 Pro. Moving on, we get pretty much same ports and buttons on all the sides like we did before. The power/sleep wake button and the alert slider is on the right side. I wish this slider was placed a bit lower because I have to change back grip every time I need to change it to a different position. On the left side, we just have the volume up and down buttons, and at the bottom, we have the SIM tray on the left which can hold 2 nano SIM cards, the main microphone next to it, then there's a USB Type-C port for charging and data transfer, followed by a speaker grill on the bottom right. With a 6.7-inch display, it is a tall phone, but thanks to the 20:1:9 aspect ratio, it isn't as wide and feels very comfortable. The subtle curve to the back edges make it fit really well in the hands. It is still not a one-handed device, at least not for my average size hands, but I still like using it. It weighs in at just above 200 grams, and you do feel the weight when you first get the phone, but in just a couple of days you do get used to it. This extra bit of weight also makes it feel more premium. This OnePlus 11 definitely feels like a solid, hefty and a densely packed phone. It gets a 6.7-inch display, which is like a standard size for most of the phones in the last couple of years. With a resolution of 3216 by 1440 pixels, it's a Quad HD Plus panel, but out of the box it is set at Full HD Plus resolution. So one of the first things which I did after setting this phone up was to switch it up to Quad HD Plus resolution, and I suggest you guys do the same. It's a LTPO3 Fluid AMOLED display, which means the refresh rate can go as low as 1 Hz for static images or for things like always on display, and it can ramp up to 120 Hz when you are scrolling or playing a demanding game which supports higher refresh rate. This display also supports 1 billion colors, HDR10+, Dolby Vision, and it can get as bright as 1300 nits if you are outside in direct sun or while viewing HDR content on it. And as I said before, this display gets Gorilla Glass Victus protection. Speaking of protection, there is a thin film-like screen protector pre-installed, and I suggest you leave it on unless you find a good replacement for it. The case which comes in the box does cover up the phone pretty well, but it is very thin and a bit loose, so I suggest investing in a slightly better one which will provide a bit more protection to your phone. Coming back to the display, it looks amazing. Colors look really good, viewing angles are excellent, and it gets plenty bright whether you're using it indoors or outdoors, and it is just a really good display overall. I am however not a fan of these curved edges. I've said this in the past as well that I don't like the content overflowing on these edges as it looks distorted. And it also triggers too many accidental touches for me. Now if there is someone who tells you that they did not come across the accidental touches on this phone, they just haven't used this phone for long enough. Because it is definitely an issue with this phone, especially if you use it without a case. There's Dolby Vision and HDR10+ support, so you can watch all the modern content as it is intended to be viewed, which is great. Watching movies or TV shows on streaming services like Amazon Prime and Hotstar is a very enjoyable experience. But when you're watching videos on YouTube and you come across a HDR video, you can see the whole display shift to a different color temperature. Here, you can have a look at it yourself. Did you catch the shift? It looks very distracting in real life, and I hope OnePlus is doing something to fix it. A part of this display is the fingerprint sensor which sits under it. Now I love the placement. Unlike many of the previous OnePlus phones, it is not placed too close to the chin of the phone. It is placed about an inch to inch and a half above the chin, which makes it very easy and comfortable to reach. That being said, I found this fingerprint sensor to be very slow and unreliable at times. Now it works fine during the daytime or when I am using this phone very often. But when I let it to rest for over an hour or during the night, it just won't recognize my finger anymore. I have to keep on trying 5 to 7 times before it could unlock the phone. And this has got even more frustrating as I have used the phone more and more. The other day, I was out taking some image samples with it and the fingerprint sensor was so slow and inaccurate that after a while I had to literally turn it off. I don't know if it is just with my phone or others are having this issue too. If you own this OnePlus 11 and you are watching this video, let me know if you are facing a similar issue with your fingerprint sensor or is it working 100% of the time for you without any issues. You get stereo speakers where the earpiece speaker acts like a secondary speaker and the audio coming out of this phone is just amazing. There is Dolby Atmos support and you can also hear a clear separation between the stereo channels which makes your content consumption experience that much better. So looking at its display and speakers, you get a very immersive experience whenever you are watching content or playing games on this OnePlus 11. Inside, this phone comes packed with all the latest tech. It gets the latest Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 processor which is built on 4nm architecture and it is coupled with Adreno 740 GPU. You get to choose between 8 or 16GB of LPDDR5X RAM and 128 or 256GB of fast storage. Now the 128GB storage variant gets UFS 3.1 storage, whereas the 256GB storage variant comes with a much faster UFS 4.0 storage. This seems like a very cheap cost saving trick and I think OnePlus should be upfront about it so people could make a more informed decision. It also packs in a 5000 mAh dual cell non-removable battery which can be charged very quickly via the included 100-watt SuperVOOC charger. It also packs in all the other necessary radios like 5G antennas, Bluetooth 5.3, NFC, support for the latest Wi-Fi 7 and a very strong haptic motor and so on. All of which means that you don't have to worry about the performance of this phone. Swiping between the home screens, opening apps, playing games, using social media apps throughout the day, checking and replying to email, everything feels effortless on this phone. A huge part of this is thanks to the newer and much improved Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 processor. It can perform a huge number of computations every second and at the same time it consumes lot less power, which in other words means that it is extremely efficient. I'm not a gamer, but I loved the gaming experience on this phone. Everything feels very fast and smooth and I was able to play games on their max graphics settings without any issues. This phone does get warm near the camera module if you put it under sustained load for a long time. But thankfully it doesn't overheat so it doesn't throttle and it also doesn't feel too hot to the touch. The other part of the credit for this amazingly smooth performance has to go to OnePlus's operating system. It comes with Oxygen OS 13 running on top of Android 13. Yes, it is no longer the same Oxygen OS that everyone loved and adored. And it is actually Color OS on the inside, just wearing a mask of Oxygen OS. That being said, it still feels pretty fast and smooth. And there are a lot of very useful features here as well. And unlike Color OS, there are no ads, vague notifications or unnecessary bloatware pre-installed here. There are some annoying issues which I came across. Like when you bring up the app drawer by swiping up, you can't dismiss it by swiping down like you can do on most of the other Android phones. Notifications are not grouped properly and for some weird reason, you can only dismiss the notifications in one direction, which can be a bit annoying if you're coming from any other Android phone. But all of these are small things and you can learn to live with them with time. And there is actually nothing majorly wrong with this operating system. OnePlus promises 4 major software updates and 5 years of security patches, which just like Samsung is one of the best in the industry. It comes with Android 13, so you can expect it to get software support till Android 17 at the very least. Coming to the cameras, OnePlus has again partnered with Hasselblad to tune its main camera and the color science behind it. That combined with the new ISP on the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 processor should help all the cameras take better images than before. Well, being better than before still doesn't earn it the spot amongst the top flagship cameras in my books. And honestly, I don't feel OnePlus has really got $150 million worth of improvement in their cameras in their 3-year-long partnership with Hasselblad. More on this in my dedicated video about these cameras. We still get triple cameras at the back, but shape of the camera module which holds the cameras is now a circle. And as you can see, there is Hasselblad branding in the center. The main camera gets a new 50MP Sony IMX890 sensor with f1.8 aperture, 24mm lens and optical image stabilization. Next one gets a 32MP Sony IMX709 sensor with f2.0 aperture and a 48mm lens. This provides us with a 2.2x optical zoom, which seems like a step back from the 3.3x zoom that we got on the OnePlus 10 Pro. And finally, it gets a 48MP sensor with f2.2 aperture, a very wide 115° field of view and autofocusing capabilities, which lets it take macro shots as well. This makes it one of the best macro cameras on any phones out there. At the front, it comes with a 16MP camera with f2.5 aperture and a 25mm lens. Here are a few image samples from the OnePlus 11. Now, I'm not going to go too deep into its cameras in this video because I have a very detailed camera review coming up very soon with lot of image and video samples from all these cameras. So make sure you have the notifications for this channel turned on. Overall, you can see that the main camera does a really good job in variety of lighting conditions. Since the image sensor is big enough and there is OIS, it doesn't struggle too much even when the light goes down. Sadly, you can't shoot 4K 120 or even 8K 30fps videos with the main camera anymore. The processor is more than capable of shooting these frame rates, but OnePlus for some reason limits the phone from doing so. Again, I have a lot more to say about these cameras in its detailed camera review, so just keep an eye out for that video. I am very impressed with the battery backup of this phone. You can easily expect it to last an entire day on a single charge and still have plenty of juice remaining to take you halfway through the next day. Even if you are a heavy user, you will definitely get a day's worth of battery life out of this phone. I have had the display set to QHD Plus resolution, so if you lower it to Full HD Plus, you can get even longer battery backup out of it. We have the 5000 mAh battery and efficiency of the newer Snapdragon processor to thank for this. When the battery eventually runs out, you can quickly juice it up with the extremely fast 100W Superbook charger. Now I really don't know how long does this phone take to charge from 0 to 100% because honestly I haven't charged it to 100% yet. I just connect it to a charger for 10 to 12 minutes whenever I am near a charger and it quickly tops it up to a level that I don't even have to connect it to a charger for the remaining day. Now if you are a fan of wireless charging, this phone doesn't get that feature. Yes, OnePlus made sure to add LPDDR5X RAM, UFS 4.0 storage and even Wi-Fi 7, which honestly no one really cares about. But they let go of something as basic as wireless charging, which they themselves made a big fuss about when adding it to one of their previous phones some time back. So there's that. So this is pretty much all you guys need to know about the OnePlus 11. If you consider it to be a successor of the OnePlus 10T, then with a newer processor, better display, slightly bigger battery which can last much longer, return of the alert slider, improved cameras overboard and overall smoother performance, it sounds like a very big upgrade and seems like OnePlus has finally taken steps in the right direction. But if you consider it to be OnePlus 10 Pro's successor, then the only improvements that we get are in terms of overall better performance and longer battery life, both of which are directly coming from the newer and more improved Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 processor. For me personally, even the cameras didn't feel that big of an upgrade over the OnePlus 10 Pro. And in that sense, as an overall package, this OnePlus 11 doesn't sound like that big of an upgrade. But considering all the things that it offers at a somewhat lower price point, I still think it is better to go with this phone than the OnePlus 10 Pro. Don't get me wrong, I am not saying that the OnePlus 11 is not good. In fact, it is a really good phone and honestly could be one of the better phones that OnePlus launched in the last 2 to 3 years. But it doesn't feel like enough of an upgrade or lacks the wow factor compared to their previous top-of-the-line flagship phones. And I seriously feel it should have been priced close to 50,000 to make a real impact in this segment. If you could get this phone at a discount, then that would make it a sweeter deal. So after knowing all this information, if you were ready to spend over 55,000 rupees on a new smartphone, would you consider going with the OnePlus 11 or would you be looking at some of the other phones like the Samsung Galaxy S23, Pixel 7 Pro, the upcoming Xiaomi 13 Pro or maybe even the iPhone 14? Let me know in the comments. That is it for this video guys. Please hit the like button if you found this video to be helpful and subscribe to the channel for more quality tech videos like this. You can also check out some of the other videos from this channel. This has been Sagar and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Take care.